I never thought I'd be that guy, the one who gets blindsided by a betrayal so brutal it leaves you questioning everything you thought was real. My name's Jake, and I was married to Emily for almost 3 years. We met in college, and from day one she seemed like the perfect girl, smart, beautiful, confident, and she had this way of making me feel like I was the only guy in the world who mattered. I honestly thought I'd hit the jackpot. We moved in together pretty fast, got engaged, and planned a wedding that I thought would be the happiest day of my life. Looking back, maybe I was blind. Or maybe I just wanted to believe in the fairy tale. I don't know. But everything felt normal until about 2 months ago. Emily started acting weird. Little things. She'd be more secretive with her phone, always locking it when she went to the bathroom or changing the password without telling me. I'd catch her quickly deleting messages or hiding her screen when I'd walk by. I brushed it off at first, thinking she was just tired or stressed, but the signs gradually piled up. Then came the late nights. She'd say she was working late at the office, but I'd come home and find her phone buzzing nonstop with texts and calls she'd try to hide. She'd get defensive when I asked about it, saying I was overthinking, that I was paranoid, but I knew better. I felt it in my gut something was wrong. It wasn't just work stress. I kept telling myself to trust her, but every time I looked at her I saw a flicker of something else, embarrassment, guilt. I couldn't put my finger on it. The worst part was how she'd lie so effortlessly. I'd confront her, and she'd come up with these crazy stories about how she was just talking to her coworker about the project, or how she was texting her sister. She'd call me insecure, say I was paranoid and jealous, that I didn't trust her. But I did trust her, until I found that text message on her phone last week. That's when everything changed. I saw a message from her, "Can't wait to see you tonight," sent at 11:47 p.m. right when I was asleep. Underneath it, there was a reply that made my stomach drop. "Me too. Love you." She told me she was at her parents' house that night, said she was just talking to her sister about her terrible day, that she wasn't hiding anything, but I knew better. I knew that wasn't just a friendly chat, it was more. The way they texted, the timing, the words, they crossed a line. And that's when I understood that my wife, Emily, had been sneaking around behind my back with my best friend, Ryan, who, up until now, was like a brother to me. I always trusted Ryan. We'd been through a lot. And now I had to face the fact that he'd betrayed me too, and Emily had lied to my face about everything. It hit me hard. I felt like I was swallowing lies my whole life, like I'd been blind to what was really happening. How could she do this? How could she lie so easily? I had no idea what to do at that moment. I just knew I couldn't keep pretending everything was fine. That night I stayed awake, staring at my phone, trying to process what I'd just discovered. I felt a mix of anger, betrayal, and deep sadness. My wife, the woman I loved, had been cheating on me with someone I thought was family. I kept asking myself, how did I miss all those signs? How much more had I been blind to? I told myself I'd handle it, but I didn't know what was coming next. The next morning I woke up feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. My head was pounding and my stomach was twisted into knots. I kept replaying that message on my phone over and over. It was clear she'd been lying to me for months, probably longer. I didn't sleep much that night, just lay there staring at the ceiling, trying to figure out what I should do. Do I confront her right away? Do I gather evidence first? Do I ask Ryan what the hell was going on? I knew I couldn't keep going like this, pretending everything was fine. That morning I decided I needed to know the full truth. I started digging through her phone while she was in the shower. That's when I found more messages, texts, photos, even a few explicit conversations. It was worse than I thought. They had been texting openly, sharing intimate details, talking about sex, about how much they wanted each other. I saw things I wish I could erase from my mind. She even sent pictures, nothing too explicit but enough to tell me they'd crossed every line. I felt like I was going to lose my mind. My stomach churned, my hands shook. How could she do this to me? How could she lie so effortlessly? I wanted to confront her immediately, but I knew I had to be smart about it. I waited until she was dressed, then I called her into the living room. She looked at me with that fake innocent look, like I was the crazy one for even suspecting anything. "Emily," I said, voice trembling, "I need to talk to you. Sit down." She sat crossing her arms, but her eyes darted around, trying to hide something. I looked her straight in the face and laid everything out. I told her I knew about the texts, the pictures, everything. Her face twisted into some kind of angry smirk and she started lying, of course. "You're overreacting," she said. "It's just some stupid flirtation. Nothing serious. You're paranoid, you're jealous." She kept denying it even though I had the proof right in front of me. I told her I wasn't stupid, that I saw the messages and the pictures, that I knew she'd been cheating on me with Ryan, my best friend, like a brother. She rolled her eyes, scoffing at me, and then started with her usual manipulative bullshit. "You're just jealous because Ryan is more successful than you. You're insecure. I never loved him, it was just sex, a stupid mistake. You're making a big deal out of nothing." The way she said it so dismissively made me want to scream. I felt this surge of rage and heartbreak at the same time. How could she lie so easily? How could she make me feel like I was crazy for just wanting the truth? I didn't say much after that, just sat there trying to process what I'd just heard. My hands were clenched into fists and I could feel my jaw tighten. I wanted to punch something, crush her, or maybe just run away and never look back. But I didn't. I stayed quiet, waiting for her to say more. That's when she dropped her bombshell. "Look," she said, voice dripping with attitude. "I didn't mean for it to go this far. I was bored and Ryan was there and we just kind of clicked. It doesn't mean I love him or anything. I just needed something different, something exciting. You're so boring, Jake. You're always working or glued to your stupid video games. I needed a real man, someone who could give me what I wanted." That line hit me like a punch in the gut. Boring, stupid. That was her excuse. I felt my heart shatter. I just sat there, stunned, feeling every ounce of trust I had in her evaporate. I couldn't believe I'd been played like a fool all these years. I wanted to yell, to scream, to cry, but I couldn't find the words. All I could think about was how much I had loved her, how I had given her everything, and she had thrown it all away for some quick sex with my best friend. I didn't say a word after that. She kept rambling about how it was a mistake, how she'd never do it again, and how she still loved me. But her words didn't mean a damn thing anymore. I knew she was lying, just trying to save her ass. That moment, I promised myself that I wasn't going to be manipulated anymore. I'd always been the kind of guy who believed in second chances, but this was something I couldn't forgive. Not just the cheating, but the lies, the betrayal, the way she'd so easily dismiss what she'd done. I knew I had to decide what was next. I felt my world crumbling around me, but one thing was clear. I couldn't stay with someone who lied to my face and cheated behind my back. I needed to think, to breathe, to figure out if I even wanted to save this marriage. Because right now, I felt like I was standing on the edge of a cliff, about to fall into an abyss of despair. And I didn't know if I could come back from it. After that confrontation, I was a mess. I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face, heard her lies, remembered those texts. It was like I had been living in some kind of nightmare, and I was just now waking up to the harsh reality. I started questioning everything, my judgment, her feelings, Ryan's integrity. How could someone I trusted so blindly turn out to be the worst kind of liar? How could Ryan, my best friend, betray me like this? It felt like my entire life had been built on a lie, and now I was left to pick up the shattered pieces. I knew I couldn't just brush this off. I had to do something, but I wasn't sure what. Part of me wanted to blow everything up immediately, call her out in front of everyone, confront Ryan, cut ties with both of them. But another part, the rational side, told me I needed to approach this carefully, to gather evidence, to plan my next move. I couldn't afford to make impulsive decisions that I'd regret later. So I started secretly recording her when she was talking to her friends, logging her phone activity and keeping an eye on her. I knew I was treading dangerous territory, but I didn't see any other option. If I was going to do this right, I needed proof. I also reached out to some of her friends, people I trusted, to see if they knew anything. Most of them had noticed her strange behavior but didn't suspect anything serious. I guess I was the last to realize how deep this went. A few days later, I got a tip from a friend I hadn't even told about the situation. He said he saw Emily and Ryan together at a bar last weekend, acting really close, laughing, touching, whispering. I didn't want to believe it, but deep down, I knew it was true. I had enough evidence now. I felt like I'd been hit by a freight train. Everything I thought I knew about my life was a lie. The woman I loved, the friend I trusted, both of them had betrayed me in the worst way possible. That night, I sat quietly in my apartment, trying to think through my next move. I knew I couldn't keep living in this state of denial, pretending everything was okay. I had to confront her again, but this time with everything laid out on the table. I decided I'd give her one last chance to come clean, but I knew already that I wasn't coming back from this. This was beyond forgiveness. This was an end of something I thought was forever. I was tired of being the fool, tired of feeling like I was drowning in lies. The worst part, I realized the betrayal wasn't just about the sex or the texts. It was about the complete erosion of trust. The foundation of our relationship had crumbled, and I didn't see how it could be repaired. All the little things, her sneaky behavior, her manipulations, her lies, added up to one huge, unfixable mess. The fact that she thought she could just lie her way out of it, that she could brush it under the rug, made me feel even more disgusted. How could she be so callous, so selfish? Did she even care about what she'd done to me? I knew I had to make a decision. Part of me wanted to walk away, cut her out of my life, and never look back. But another part, still raw and bleeding, wanted to fight for some kind of resolution, even if it was just to find closure. Honestly, I didn't know what I was going to do yet. All I knew was that this betrayal had changed everything. I was no longer the naive guy I once was. Now, I was just a man trying to pick up the pieces of a life shattered by lies and deception, and I wasn't sure if I'd ever be able to put it back together again. In the days that followed, everything felt surreal. I kept replaying that moment in the living room, her smirk, her lies, her dismissive attitude. It was like I'd been walking around with a blindfold on, and now I finally saw the truth clearly, and it hurt more than I thought possible. I was angry, yes. Heartbroken, definitely. But mostly, I felt numb. Like I'd been punched in the chest so hard I couldn't breathe. I started planning my next move, not impulsively but strategically. I knew I needed her to slip up again, to catch her in the act, or at least get her to admit everything outright. So I set up a few hidden cameras around the house, not just to catch her texting Ryan, but to see how she behaved when she thought she was alone. I also kept my phone close, ready to record any new lies or slip-ups. It was a brutal thing to do, spying on the one person I'd trusted most, but I felt I had no choice. Meanwhile, I could help but feel a deep sense of betrayal from Ryan too. How could he do this to me? My best friend, someone I'd confided in, played sports with, gone on trips with, he had become my worst enemy. I started remembering little things, moments I'd ignored or brushed aside. The way Ryan would suddenly disappear for hours, or how he'd look uncomfortable when I'd mention Emily. It all clicked into place. They had been planning this probably for months. One afternoon, I finally confronted Ryan directly. I had enough evidence now to make him squirm. I texted him saying I needed to talk. When he showed up at my apartment, I was ready. I laid everything out, every message, every photo, every time I'd seen them together. I watched as his face drained of color, his eyes darting around, trying to come up with some excuse. I saw guilt and shame wash over him, but mostly, I saw the realization that he'd crossed a line I never thought he would. "I never wanted to hurt you," Ryan muttered, voice trembling. "I was stupid. I thought she was just playing around, and I didn't think it would go this far." I did say much at first. I just stared at him, feeling the betrayal seep into my bones. I told him I never wanted to see him again, that I didn't think I could forgive him, and that I would never forget what he'd done. The trust I once had for him shattered. That night I sat alone in my apartment, feeling like I'd lost everything. My wife, my best friend, my sense of security. I couldn't stop crying, even though I tried to hold it in. It was like a floodgate opening. All the pain, all the anger, all the disappointment, all of it came crashing down on me. How could someone I loved, someone I thought was my partner in life, do this to me? And how could Ryan, the guy I'd considered family, betray me so badly? I knew I had to make a decision. I could try to fix this, to work through the pain and rebuild trust, or I could walk away and start over. Honestly, I didn't have the strength to fix it. Not right now. I felt broken. I felt like my heart had been ripped out of my chest. Every time I thought about Emily and Ryan together, I felt this rising rage, a deep desire for revenge that I couldn't suppress. But at the same time, I knew that revenge wouldn't bring me peace. It wouldn't undo what they'd done, but it sure as hell made me want to lash out. In that moment of clarity, I realized I couldn't stay and pretend everything was okay. I had to leave. I had to get away from the toxic mess they created. So I started packing my things, deciding that I needed to distance myself from the pain and the lies. I didn't want to see their faces, hear their voices, or think about what they did to me anymore. I had to find myself again, find a way to heal from this, even if it meant starting from nothing. As I packed, I thought about all the lessons I'd learned. Lessons about trust, about how people can surprise you in the worst ways, about how love can turn into betrayal overnight. I realized that I had to let go of the anger, hold on to what was left of my dignity, and move forward. It wasn't going to be easy, but I knew I couldn't keep living in this nightmare forever. I had to take control of my life again, even if it meant facing loneliness and heartbreak for a while. The day I finally moved out was one of the hardest days of my life. I packed my things slowly, feeling like I was tearing myself apart piece by piece. Every item I packed was a reminder of what I lost, memories of us together, of the plans we made, of the future I thought we'd build. It was surreal, like watching my life burn to ash. I kept telling myself I was doing the right thing, that I deserved better than this betrayal, but that didn't stop the ache deep inside my chest. I left her a note. Not a long one, just enough to say I was done, that I couldn't stay with someone who lied to my face and cheated behind my back. I told her I never wanted to see her again, that I hoped she found whatever it was she was looking for. I knew she'd probably try to apologize or manipulate her way back in, but I didn't want to hear it. I was done playing the fool. I packed my car and drove away from the house that had once felt like home, now just a prison of betrayal. The first few nights alone were brutal. I kept waking up, expecting her to be there, expecting her to come home and tell me it was all a mistake. But she didn't. She never did. Instead, I was left with a hollow silence and the haunting memory of her lies. I spent hours staring at the ceiling, trying to process what had happened, trying to understand how I'd been so blind, how I had missed all the signs, how I'd let her manipulate me into believing she was faithful. I also started thinking about Ryan. My once trusted friend, my brother in every sense, had turned out to be just as rotten as Emily. I kept replaying their moments together, the secret texts, the photos. It made me feel sick. I kept asking myself, how could he do this to me? How could I have been so stupid to think he was different? The pain of betrayal cut deep, sharper than I ever imagined. I thought I knew Ryan. I thought I knew Emily. Turns out I barely knew either of them. I reached out to a few close friends, people I trusted, just to talk about what happened. Some of them were sympathetic, some told me I'd be better off without them, that I deserved someone who wouldn't lie or cheat, that I should focus on healing myself. And honestly, that's what I've been trying to do, one day at a time. I started going to the gym, trying to clear my mind. I started reading more, reconnecting with old hobbies I'd neglected. It's slow, and some days are darker than others, but I know I have to move on. But the truth is, I still feel angry, furious at Emily for how she played me, for how she dismissed my feelings and lied so effortlessly. Furious at Ryan for crossing that line, for breaking the bond of friendship and loyalty. I keep asking myself how they could do this to someone who loved them, who trusted them with everything. It's a kind of pain that sticks around, like a raw wound that just won't heal. And yet, I also realize that holding onto that anger won't do me any good. I have to find a way to forgive, not for them, but for myself. To finally let go of the betrayal and move forward. Honestly, I don't know what the future holds. I'm still figuring that out. I know I won't forget what they did, but I also know I can't let it define me. I want to believe that someday I'll look back at this and see it as a chapter I survived, one that made me stronger, more aware, more cautious about who I trust. I've learned a hard lesson about love, about trust, about the importance of listening to my gut. No matter how much it hurts right now, I refuse to stay stuck in this pain forever, because deep down I know I deserve better, and someday I'll find it. Now, sitting here reflecting on everything, I realize that betrayal changes you permanently. I used to think love was about trust and loyalty, about building a future together. But I've learned that sometimes, people you love the most are the ones who hurt you the deepest. Emily and Ryan's betrayal was a wake-up call I never wanted, but it forced me to see things clearly for the first time. I finally understand that no matter how much you want to believe in fairy tales, reality can be cruel and people can surprise you in the worst ways. I won't pretend that I'm completely healed or that I've moved on entirely. Some nights, I still wake up angry, wondering how I was so blind. I still feel the sting of betrayal, the emptiness of losing what I thought was my happily ever after. But I also feel a sense of relief. Relief that I've taken back control of my life, that I've decided to walk away from the chaos and lies. It's a painful process, but I know I had to do it, had to come to terms with what happened so I could start rebuilding from the ground up. What I've learned from all this is simple but powerful. Trust has to be earned, not given blindly. People can surprise you in ways you never expect, and sometimes those surprises aren't good. I've learned that betrayal isn't just about sex or lies. It's about the broken trust that takes years to rebuild, and sometimes never gets rebuilt at all. I've also learned that the most important thing is to protect your heart, to listen to your instincts, and never ignore the signs when they start showing. As I move forward, I focus on healing and growth. I know I'm not the same person I was before, and maybe that's okay. Maybe I needed this heartbreak to wake me up and make me realize my own worth. I'm not rushing into anything. I'm just taking it day by day, trying to remind myself that I deserve love, honesty, and loyalty. Things I clearly wasn't getting from Emily and Ryan. One day, I hope I'll meet someone who values me for who I am, who won't lie or cheat or manipulate. Until then, I'll keep rebuilding, keep learning, and keep reminding myself that the pain is part of the process. This story isn't just about betrayal, it's about resilience, about finding the strength to walk away from the darkness and into the light, about realizing that sometimes the greatest act of love you can do for yourself is to let go of what no longer serves you, even if it hurts like hell. And in the end, I know I'll come out of this stronger, wiser, and more mindful. The road ahead is uncertain, but I'm ready to face it, alone if necessary, but with the hope that someday I'll find my way back to happiness,